All right, so question 3 is asking you write an equation for the line in point slope form and in slope intercept form from the points 1/2 2 and -3/2 4. So the first thing that we're going to do is choose which one is going to be point 1 and which one is going to be point 2. I'm going to say this is going to be point 1 and this is going to be point 2, and you guys can't see that, so we're going to choose a different color. So let's choose this color. So this is going to be point 1 and this is going to be point 2. You can kind of see that. So I'm going to have x1, y1, you can see that, and x2, y2. So step 1 is to find the slope. So step 1, find the slope. So in order to find the slope, we're going to use our equation y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we look at our 2 points. y2 would be 4. So we would write a 4 minus y1, which is 2, over x2 is -3/2. And even though we do see fractions, don't worry about that. That will take care of itself. Minus our x1, which is 1/2. We do each step one at a time. So I have 4 minus 2, which gives me a positive 2. Let's make that a little darker. Over 3 minus 1, same sign, add and keep. So 3 plus 1 is going to give me a 4. I'm going to keep that negative. Over, our denominators stay the same. I keep going, and I'm going to cross it over to, we'll keep using this side right here. No, we'll move on to this side. So we'll move it like this. That's even perfect. So the 2 stays up on the top, divided by 2 goes into 4 2 times. It's going to give me a negative, which means I will have I'll put this up here, -1 as my slope. So now we know that our slope is -1. So we're going to plug that into our step 2, which is our point slope form. You can still see me? Yes, you can. All right. So step 2 is point slope form. So as you guys are copying that down, I will write that down. Point slope form. Point slope form gives me the equation y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. So from here, we get to choose either point 1 or point 2 to plug into our point slope form. I personally think 3/2 is a little wonky, so I'm going to go with our smaller numbers. So I'm going to choose our 1/2 and 2 to be able to plug this in. So when we're looking at point slope form, the things that are never going to really change is our y, our equal sign, and our parentheses with the x in the front. Everything else, it's just kind of filling in the blanks. So we look for our slope. Our slope is -1. So I'm going to put this right here in the middle. So -1 right there. We look at our point. Our y, which goes in the front, is going to be 2. And whatever we see up here, we're going to write down the opposite. So I'm going to write down a negative 2. And our x, again, will do the opposite. So I see a positive 1/2. So I'm going to write, a negative 1/2. A negative 1/2. Alright, so that's the end of step 2. It looks kind of funky for you guys, so let me rewrite that. So minus 1/2. So if you guys don't mind, I am going to move this over, and I'm going to use that second bar over there. So I'm going to cross. I'm going to rewrite it up here. So y minus 2 equals negative 1 x minus 1/2. And we're going to do step 3. So in step 3, we're going to do the slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form. So in the slope-intercept form, I'm looking for y equals mx plus b. So I want this form up here, the point-slope form, to be converted into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to take our equation, write it one more time. Y minus 2 equals negative 1 x minus 1/2. And I'm going to distribute. I want to change my color. And I'm going to go with a red. So nothing happens to the left side. It's going to stay the same. So I'm going to bring that guy down. Y minus 2. And I'm going to distribute this negative 1. So this negative 1 is going to go with the x. So I get negative 1x. And then I want to distribute the negative 1 with the negative 1/2. So a negative and a negative gives me a positive. 1 times 1/2 gives me 1/2. From here, I'm going to move this negative 2 because I'm trying to get the y all by itself. So I'm going to do the upside down t. I'm going to add 2 to both sides because that's the opposite inverse of what we see. We're going to bring down my y. My 2's become a 0. I can bring down this negative 1x. I do run into one problem. I have a 1/2 plus 2. So I'm going to move this guy over, and I'm going to be able to add it. So 1 over 2 plus 2 over 1. In order to add my fractions, I do need both top and bottom to have the same denominator. So I'm going to multiply this bottom by a 2, and whatever I do to the bottom, I have to do to the top. So I get 1/2 plus 2 times 2 gives me a 4. 1 times 2 gives me a 2. 1 plus 4 gives me a 5 over 2. So I'm going to take this guy right here and plug it in over here. So since it's a positive, I'm going to write plus 5 over 2. So this ends up being my final answer. So to kind of go back over everything, we started off with our 2 points. Our first step was to find the slope. So I have to use y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I look at our 2 points. I pick which one's first and which one's second. I look for y2, put it first, minus y1. Then I do x2 minus x1. The tops are very easy because they're all whole numbers, so I don't really have to do much with them. 4 minus 2 gives me a 2. The 1/2, I need to make sure that my denominators are the same, which they are. The top, though, I have a negative and a negative, so it's add and keep. 3 plus 1 gives me a 4. We're going to keep that negative. 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 divided by 2 does give me that 1, and it's going to keep with that negative. At that point, we get to pick either 0.1 or 0.2. I decided to use 0.1 just because the numbers are a little bit easier to handle. I put it in our point slope form. The easiest part is to start with our slope, which is what we just found, so -1. Our y1 goes up in the front next to our y, so whatever we see in our points, we do the opposite. So the opposite of an addition, or a +2, is a -2. Opposite of a half is a -1/2. We take this, and then we change it into our slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. We take our formula that we had at the beginning, point slope form, and sorry about that. And we're going to distribute our -1. Nothing happens to our y minus 2. So -1 times x gives me a -x. -1 times a -1/2 gives me a +1/2. I have to move the -2 over in order to get the y all by itself. So I'm going to do the inverse operation, and instead of a negative, we're going to add 2 to both sides. I get the y by itself. This becomes a 0. I bring down my -x. When I have a fraction and a whole number, I kind of have to do side math, where I make my whole number into a fraction. So I get 1/2 plus 2 over 1. In order to change this 1 to the same denominator, I needed to multiply both top and bottom by a 2. 2 times 2 gives me a 4. 1 times 2 gives me a 2. 4 plus 1 gives me a 5 over 2. And then finally plug that in.